40 years ago, Aboriginal people from the Central Australian community of Papunya began what's now known as the Western Desert Art Movement. A major exhibition at Melbourne's Ian Potter Gallery looks back at how those first crucial works spawned a multi-million-dollar industry. Genevieve Hussey reports.
We have 200 of these early works, and there was a great sense of passion, excitement, and also a strong bond between the artists.
They were really revealing to the outside world their connection to their land and to their country, and what's more, they were absolutely beautiful and stunning designs.
This exhibition of hundreds of rare paintings and artefacts celebrates the beginning of the Western Desert Art Movement. The movement emerged just 40 years ago when Aboriginal people in Central Australia first began painting on boards.
The birth of the Western Desert Art Movement in the early 70s was really the catalyst for the whole flowering of Indigenous art throughout this country.
In the early 1970s, art teacher Jeffrey Barden was posted to the Central Australian Government settlement of Papunya. It had about 2,500 Aboriginal residents. Jeffrey Barden encouraged them to take the depictions of their stories that they made in the sand and paint them on permanent surfaces.
They painted on anything they could find. They're all manner of shapes and sizes, and they're on all sorts of surfaces, a fence paling or pieces of cardboard.
They even used my shoe polish, white shoe cleaner, when we ran out of white. And painted on floor tiles that were just lying idle where the tilers had left them.
Jeffrey Barden knew that he was witnessing something profound. Ephemeral designs, usually only seen in a ceremonial context, were transformed into a new art medium.
Within 6 months, they become really quite elaborate and intricate designs, and you can see that the artists were really trying to beat each other at what they were doing and being inspired by each other. So it was certainly an extraordinary artistic frenzy.
Jeffrey Barden made the operation a commercial enterprise, establishing Papunya Chula Artists, a company owned entirely by the artists.
This first cooperative of artists has been the model for art centres, Aboriginal-owned art centres throughout Australia. This is a company that is still flourishing.
In Alice Springs, one famous early Papunya work, the Carper board, which won an art prize in 1971, has been taken from the gallery wall and is being shipped to Melbourne for the exhibition. It's just one of 200 early works, gathered from galleries and private collectors worldwide.
Judith Ryan and her team have really scoured the globe looking for the greatest early Papunya boards and bringing them back together for the first time on such a grand scale.
Today, Papunya Chula has 120 artists on its books. Their work is worth millions of dollars and sells around the world.
There have often been naysayers who've said that when the older generation of artists pass on, that there won't be a continuing tradition, or it won't be such great art being produced, but it couldn't be further from the truth.
Bobby West Japarula's father was one of the original Papunya Chula painters.
I wanted to paint too because that's the only way to, show and not tell a story about your places, your Rockhole, Saltwater, Dreamtime.
Artists from Central Australia, including some of the original Papunya Chula painters, have travelled to Melbourne to see the work on display.
We're going to show the paintings in Melbourne, really old painting, and have a celebration and tell a story.
In Kintore, 500 kilometres west of Alice Springs, painting is still a way of life, and art has brought real benefit to the community. Money raised by an art auction funded a dialysis unit, which means locals with kidney disease don't have to travel to Alice Springs for treatment.
It's obviously an industry and a huge economy, and it provides people with the ability to fund their own lives, to take control of them, to not sit around waiting for cheques to arrive from the government.
At $15,000. At $15,000. Gentlemen's bid here at $15,000.
But like many businesses, Indigenous art has borne the brunt of the global financial crisis.
At $23,000 here at the front at $23,000.
The industry hopes the exhibition will generate new interest.
And it's sold, it's yours, $24,000.
Indigenous art, perhaps more than traditional Australian art, has been affected to some extent. I do know, though, when there is a retrospective on an artist's work, there's a rejuvenated interest in that artist, and people want to own the works.
The exhibition has already generated overseas interest, with a showing in Paris next year. But for now, Australians are being urged to take a look.
This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for Australians to come and see for themselves these paintings brought together. It's an opportunity that is not to be missed.